Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to A Gathering Place Third Sunday Politics Talk. We were planning on having a lot to talk about, um, but Easter, it looks like Easter's kind of like interfering with everything that's going on. So I might, we're waiting on Jamarr and Brandon to join us, and hopefully they will be able to do so. If not, we might have to play previous show. How about that? But I wanted to come on and say hello to everybody because we do want to introduce what's coming on. If you have some topics you want to talk about this morning, I can talk for the next 10, 15 minutes and take your questions, any opinions about what's going on globally with the Ukraine war. It's just not about Ukraine. It's also about China. It's about Russia. And if it's about China, it's about Africa. And if it's about Africa, it's about the United States. And of course, all of Europe. And we wanted to talk about that today. But it looks like everybody's getting caught up with Easter stuff. But we'll see in a few minutes whether they'll come on. And also, we want to talk about the upcoming midterms. If we don't get to it, we'll just show a previous third Sunday politics talk show if my co-host cannot come on today. But in the meantime, I want you guys to take a look at this opening, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
Hello, I'm Marilyn Hemingway, and welcome to A Gathering Place. I said I'm stepping back because we have young voices who want to be heard, and they're moving on something.
Brandon is really important to you and your business.
Even a basic type of technology, you'll learn it all.
And people are
Good question.
See what happens when you're not here, folks. You get animated and become a GIF, and you get to dance. So that's what happens when you don't come on. I see we have some folks watching. If you have any questions about politics talk, we do it every third Sunday when we can. Brandon's a family man, so he's probably caught up in Easter holiday activities. And Jamarr had a speech earlier today. And of course, he's in Texas. So he's a couple of hours behind us, 2 or 3 hours behind us, depending on what part of Texas he's in. And they definitely said they were going to be on. But, it's Easter Sunday. We've all been going to church or partaking online church services or in person after 2 years under COVID. And we're starting to slowly come out. And I hope, even though we did spend time with families at church, family and friends congregating together, that you did take all precautions for COVID. We certainly still don't want to get COVID. And if you're 50 and older, please make sure you get your second booster. You're eligible for that second booster. All right. Hey, Greg, I think you are on. Hey, Greg, I see you. Good to see you. Got any questions, any political thoughts? We're here today. Well, I'm here today, at least, folks. Love to hear from you. Hey, Zeb, great afternoon to you also. Hope you're enjoying your Easter Sunday with friends and family and the Resurrection Day, the resurrection if you're a Christian and also Jewish or celebrating Passover. And there are actually quite a number of holidays going on. But we hope that we are all celebrating spring. We're all celebrating life, resurrection, and new beginnings. All right, so we were going to talk about Ukraine today, y'all. It's not just about Ukraine. It's about the global impact. And in particular, we were going to talk about, if they hop on, we were going to talk about African Americans and global relations. Are we really engaged as African American in global international relations? Do we have enough knowledge? And I think that question came up because the Ukraine war started, and there were issues with Africans and African Americans trying to leave the country once the war started, and they were denied exit. I was never clear if they were denied by other countries going in to get away from Ukraine, or they were denied by Ukrainian authorities um, getting out of Ukraine. But it's problematic. It was problematic, and it led to some comments, not only from elected officials here in the United States, but also in on the African continent, and just an awareness. If you watch social media, of folks just being aware of the underlying racism um, when countries in Europe are at war, and blacks, Africans, African Americans are still not placed in safety, in places of safety. All right, Marvinese, how are you? That's right. That's right. Good point. And a lot of us really don't know what's on over there or the impact it has on us here. Yeah. Not only, people talk about the rising prices of gas and the oil situation, but Ukraine alone produces like 20% of the world's grain that makes bread. So it's not even a matter of the oil and gas. It's literally a lot of people, grains are vital to their diet. And if you can't make bread, if you can't use those grains, there are people out here now starving. There really are people starving. So it's not just the rising gas prices and our reliance on Russian oil, which for America, we only 8% of our gas and oil come from Russia. It's really Europe that's getting hit with the Russia gas and oil situation. But the grain is a global situation. It's a global situation. Um, Marvinese, I'm good. Thank you very much. Trying to wait and see if Brandon and Jamar will be able to hop on with us. If not, I'm just sitting here talking and chatting about politics. If you guys have any comments, we'd love just drop your comments or questions, and we'll just have a little chat today. And then we'll continue on with our Easter egg hunts and our Easter egg services and spending time with our family and friends as we start to come alive. Spring is about new beginnings. Spring is about blossoming and blooming and life returning. Winter is where we rest. It's of darkness is where we rest and we go dormant and we become, go find warmth in our homes and we more inside. But spring is about coming back to life and blossoming and blooming and the resurrection, and it's a beautiful time of year. I enjoy all seasons because they all have their types of beauty. But, it's just something in the air. I was talking to a friend or a neighbor even about, I think I had a couple men flirting with me. And we were talking about that. And I was like, maybe it's something in the air. You get something in the air when men are flirting with you. As a matter of fact, I think that's what it was. But, that has nothing to do with politics. But I think it has something to do with the seasons, though, with the seasons, and but anyway, we were going to talk about Ukraine, and it's a global, really what we were going to talk about, folks, is Blacks and our knowledge of global relations. And I really wanted to get into it with Brandon and Jamarr because we are three strong personalities. We all have our opinions. We do agree with stuff, but sometimes we don't agree. And we love nuance. We love debate. We love discussions and conversations. And my take on it was I don't think African Americans actually have enough global knowledge. Now, we tend to focus on Africa, but we live on a globe. So what happens in Europe impacts what happens in Africa. What happens in Asia impacts what happens in Africa, what happens in the United States, South America, and so on. And I think Ukraine and the reaction to the war, the reaction of the Ukrainian peoples and the countries in Europe that are helping the Ukrainian folks, and also the global market has brought that more to folks' attention. But I think as a community, the Black community, African American community, we need to gain more global knowledge, not just about Africa, because we tend to lean towards Africa, if you will, because of our ancestral ties, direct ancestral ties. But if you even want to bring science into it, we all come from Africa. The original humans migrated from Africa into Europe, into Asia, into other continents, and through geological forces, geographical forces, etc., um, you then had different tribal folks, the change in the skin tones, the change in the eyes, evolution. It's evolutionary. Um, and then it also becomes political because wars are always political. And you could really see it playing out in the Ukrainian war of the response of the Western countries, because a lot of this has to do with finances, economics, money, um, and I think right now we're going through a great geopolitical change. Um, hey, Marvinese, okay. I would love your opinion. That's why we're here. I would love your opinion. State your opinion. I'll be happy to play for anybody. I think we're going through a great geopolitical change, and it's not just the Ukrainian war. If you've been paying attention for the last few years, China has plans to restart the Silk Road. They don't, it's even beyond plans. They're actually implementing. And if you noticed about 3 weeks ago, Turkey announced the longest suspension bridge. Um, and that's part of that China, the re implementation of the Chinese Silk Road. And China plans to take it all the way down to Africa. I don't have an opinion on this, um, but I'm very aware of it. And I don't know how many people are aware of it because China is a rising superpower, without a doubt. And I remember reading a book over 20 years ago called The Chinese Century that actually predicted this. Empires, geopolitical empires, rise and fall every 4 to 500 years. America, if you look at the 1619 papers, 1919, 2019 400 years, but let's get even deeper than that. In Georgetown County, where I live, the first enslaved ship from Spain touched in Georgetown County, South Carolina, uh, and actually enslaved Africans escaped. That was in 1526. So in 2026, it will be 500 years since the first enslaved African stepped foot in Georgetown County, South Carolina, which eventually became a colony, which eventually became the United States of America. So it's not necessary that you form a government and it was a government for 400, 500 years. An empire is not necessarily a government on paper. It's geopolitical forces. And America is looking at 400 to 500 years now. And if you look at global history, empires fall on average every 4 to 500 years. China was a superpower back in the day. Africa had superpowers, if you will, had empires back in the day. As a matter of fact, 1526, and, and I did a gathering place about it with Dr. Sam Livingston at Morehouse College. We talked about that because he is currently editing a book about 1526, a collection of essays from academics about 1526. And Dr. Sam Livingston is a Gullah Geechee from Georgetown County, South Carolina. So there are geopolitical forces that are happening that I think it would pay that African Americans, Black folks, need to pay attention to. Ukraine is not an isolated war. It is a global war. Right now, it's sanctions and economic for the rest of us. They're actually in the fight. They're at war. This Putin has plans. Um, if you look at, let me see if I can pull up a map. We don't have a map. I'm going to pull up. I do recommend a show to watch. I think he's very good, very knowledgeable, and he does it well, really explaining it. Is Fareed Zakaria, GPS, on CNN. It's usually 10 o'clock in the morning and 1 o'clock in the afternoon on CNN. I do It's a global public space. That's what GPS stands for. Fareed Zakari on CNN, very good regarding global events. And he explains it really well. I really watch him. Um, I sound like I'm going into the Matrix. Um, Science fiction comes true. There's a lot about science fiction that predicts the future a lot. Octavia Butler, a very well known African American science fiction writer, wrote, I think I heard it last night. Um, they were quoting Octavia Butler on what I'm watching last night. And they were saying Octavia Butler wrote, put centered black folks. Octavia Butler was an African American female, if you've never heard of her, who was a science fiction writer, highly respected, really talented. She was one of the top science fiction writers. And she centered black folks in her writing because science fiction is about looking towards the future. And she centered black folks in her writing because she wanted to position black folks as the power in the future, that we were in control of our destiny in the future. That science fiction didn't leave us out. She centered us to the story. So I say all that to say, if you watch Star Trek and they tap on their chest and they speak, that technology is happening now. We call them earbuds and stuff. So when you talk about the Matrix, I'm not. I just do a lot of reading. I pay attention to a lot of stuff. That's just me, Marilyn Hemingway. So when Jamarr and Brandon and I get together, who they are out there doing their work in politics, advocacy, etc., we get together and talk. I wish you guys could be in all of our conversations where we can get together when we're not on the show and we have time to get together and just talk. This is why Black folks need to be aware of global events, global history, more so than what we are. Africa is vital to this because Africa is so rich in natural resources. That's why China is in Africa right now. They need those natural resources. And I'm not even talking about gold and diamonds, which Africa is still to this day very plentiful in Africa. But I'm talking about we can't have cell phones without the materials from Africa. Our family in Africa, and I do speak of Africa as a continent, there's still children being exploited in Africa for the materials to make cell phones and computers. There's certain minerals in the earth in Africa that cell phones, computers, and batteries, electric vehicles are not going to. They're trying to figure out. Oops, I apologize about the echo. I don't know what's going on. They're trying to figure out even how to expand beyond Africa, but there's a particular material that only comes from Africa that creates that they have to have in computers, cell phones, and batteries. And where do most of our cell phones come from? China. There's a reason China is in Africa, and it's beyond that mineral. China was, colonized Belgium. Leopold, the King Leopold of Belgium, where 20 million people estimated died under his rule when the European countries came together and literally split. You're going to get these countries in Africa. France, you're going to get these countries. Belgium, you're going to get these countries. Great Britain, you're going to get these countries, which is crazy to think that people sat around, had a meeting dividing a whole continent of people because they didn't see them as people. They saw them as commodities. They saw them as natural resources. So in Africa, they exploited people as natural resources. Yeah, it is. Africa is very powerful because of its natural resources and people, and will continue to be. And if we don't support Africa, but that means it's tied globally to everything because of what it supplies. So if you listen to GPS with Fareed Zakaria, he gives you enough information that it just really needs to start thinking. He also did an entire show on Black Lives Matter, the this white Christian nationalism, because there's a serious bloc within the Republican Party that supports Putin. That's a global matter. That's a global issue. Europe, in some ways, is more progressive, secular. The fact that it's more secular, they are very aware of the problem the far right in the Republican Party. That's a problem for everybody. They're supporting Putin. As Putin takes control, then now we're looking at fascism spreading globally, which they're trying really hard to spread fascism globally, that far right. Macron, the president, the French president right now, is in a runoff with a far right candidate, and they didn't expect it to be this close. He really won his first election handily, double digit spread. This time it was close, but you got to really dig down into the numbers because what happened was with Macron was I think at 27%. The the left the left party more left than Macron. Macron's considered moderate centrist. The left wing party got about 23%, which that was more than they expected. They thought they were going to get like 9%. And then the far right, they got between 23 and 27%. So they're in a runoff with Macron's party. But the numbers really were showing up on the left wing, which is a good news for Macron. So those folks will, along with some other minor parties, will probably swing to Macron, who will probably win the runoff in France. But it's scary that it's that close, that the far right is rising globally, because this is all tied in to apartheid, what these Christian nationalists, white nationalists want to do in America, who support Putin, who's supported by China, who's deeply into Africa. So that's why we wanted to have a discussion why blacks need to be more aware of global relations, global affairs, global events, because we're all interconnected. We're all interconnected. Cannot disconnect us. And of course, the far right is it's more isolationism. We're going to stay in our country, not going to help. You do see that with Ukraine, with folks not going. They don't want to go to war. They don't want to put boots on the ground because of the fear of nuclear war. Putin is threatening that. But let me tell you, America, things are going to come home to roost for that because Putin is considered a white man. They've let him get away with stuff for years because he's considered white. And why did I say that? They allowed him to to gather these nuclear arms and stuff for years, but kind of look the other way because he's a white man. Okay? Now, the proof is in the pudding because they killed Gaddafi, they killed Saddam Hussein, and lied about him having nuclear weapons. So if you're a person of color, and I'm not saying these are good or bad people, I'm talking geopolitical politics. Edie Amin, oh, let you be a person of color and start talking about nuclear wars and we want to get nuclear weapons. They will take you out. And the proof is in the pudding because they've done it. They've done it. They took Saddam Hussein out based on a lie. They took Gaddafi out. So when they want to take you out, they will take you out. And it's so much easier, they find it so much easier to lie or find an excuse to take those with a color, black and brown, out than any nuclear talk starts happening. But because Putin was a white man, they looked the other way with a lot of stuff. No one should be surprised about what Putin's doing. This is a man who has poisoned his rivals. He's killed his rivals. He doesn't care. He's cold-blooded and he's full of pride about that. So no one should be surprised that he has gone to the point where he wants war. It's complicated, But we need to start having these conversations because it does impact us. It impacts us the price of gas. It impacts when it comes to food. There's just some of the stuff is short term. We're seeing immediately the impact the gas, and then but the long term when it comes to grains and food, we're going to start seeing long term. This fallout from this Ukrainian war is going to be with us for decades. One thing I do want to point out also far right, look up what the governor of Texas is doing. Governor Abbott uh, on the border has stopped. Mexican is a huge trading partner with the state of Texas, supplying food. Abbott, who's appealing to the far right base of the Republican Party, the far right base that has taken over the Republican Party, literally has stopped trucks coming in from Mexico to replenish their grocery stores. There are empty shelves, literally empty shelves happening in Texas now. What's Putin doing? Putin's attacking Ukraine, the breadbasket of Europe, and their empty shelves. Y'all just foster. It ain't just what's happening in the United States, which is very important. I'm not denigrating the importance of anything. I'm just saying we need to have a global perspective of everything that's going on. Any comments, Marvin? Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Nathan, thank you for your comments. We'd love to hear anybody. Got any questions? Obviously, this is my opinion. These are my opinions. But, we pay attention to stuff. Jamarr, Brandon, and I, we pay attention to stuff. We talk about stuff. That's why it's important to vote. It's not just about what we want. It's about what's happening globally. It's about who's in office. Am I happy with everybody in office? No. I'm not happy with every single thing everybody does. But I truly, truly believe the government is of the people, by the people, for the people, which means whatever government does, it reflects who we are. And I want to reflect the best of who we are. Speaking of reflecting the best of who we are, have you been paying attention to, in South Carolina, the next execution is scheduled for April 29th, and the inmate has chosen to die by firing squad. The NAACP, state NAACP, ACLU, and other organizations are organizing a march this coming Saturday, I believe that's April 23rd, in protest. It's barbaric. I think there are other ways to find punishment for people who've done the worst. Personally, I am against the death penalty because it has been used disproportionately against Black men, and I'm against the death penalty. I don't believe that the government should be killing people in the name of the people, and that's exactly what they're doing when they execute someone. Yeah, it is. It's ridiculous and it's inhumane. So there will be a protest this coming Saturday in Columbia. So stay tuned for that. Word will be getting out where and when, and I'm probably suspecting it's going to be at the State House. But yeah, there's going to be some protests about that. And make no doubt that the reason they changed the method of execution, yes, they don't have access to the drugs to inject people and take them out. But to have a choice between an electric chair and firing squad, which are both barbaric, have no doubt that is government that's controlled by old white men, majority white men, is sending a message to Black and brown. They're sending a message, and because the death penalty historically and currently has been disproportionately used against Black males. South Carolina is a state that executed a 14-year-old Black boy, and he was innocent. They just decided he needed to be executed because he was accused. All right, Eric Williams Putin is a white man, but more importantly, he's a white man whose rule has helped maintain the post-World War II geopolitical system. Yep, that is correct. It has meant unprecedented wealth and power for me. That is so true. got out of control. He got out of control for whatever reason. It's been great speculation. I've heard different reasons. But I think ultimately in the last show we had, I actually said what they're going to, we're either going to be drawn deeper into this war where there are actually going to be boots on the ground, which Putin, if that happens, Putin's threatening going nuclear. Or I think they're setting up, I think what's going to have to happen for us to kind of get out of this, Putin's going to have to be assassinated. Either they're going to have to get somebody some party into the country or into Russia to take him out, or his people are going to have to take him out. They're just going to get so, they're going to start to realize that Putin has raped the country of Russia financially. Putin's a billionaire because he's basically stolen from his own people and hollowed out the country financially. And I think they're just going to have to be, they're going to gain so much knowledge that they're going to realize that Putin is going to have to be taken out. And it's going to have to be somebody internal. And so good point, Eric. Excellent point. Yep, Marvinese, I wish you could attend also. But if you cannot, I always tell people send somebody. If you can't make an event, send somebody who else can make it and bring back the news. If you can't make city council, county council meetings, send somebody and tell them to bring back the news. But we definitely appreciate your support. But Eric, very good point about Putin. Yeah, it is that. That's why it's a geopolitical shift going on, and it's not just like what happened under Trump, what's happening under Biden. It's not just the pandemic. This has been building. I would say in the last 50 years, the American civil rights movement. If you pay attention, the independence movement in Ireland, for example, they looked at the civil rights movement and took some of the synergy, some of the training from there, and applied it in Ireland. You remember back in the day, the Catholics and the Protestants were at war with each other, and they looked at the civil rights movement and used some of those tactics. So what we do in America is really reflected. And of course, if you study Nazism, the flip side of that is the Nazi government, Hitler, they studied Jim Crow and they took the tactics of Jim Crow and applied it to the Jewish, the gypsies of Romania, gypsies, homosexuals, and others in Nazi Germany, who eventually evolved into the Holocaust. So we must be very aware of what we do in the United States. It's not just isolated in the United States. We are a global force. Even if we are no longer number one in the world, we're still going to be a superpower. People watch us. We're the number one democracy in the world. We claim to be the number one democracy in the world. There are others who want to be they want to be democracies too. That's what Ukraine is. Ukraine is a democracy. And that's another reason Putin is trying to take them out, is trying to destroy Ukraine. Because they're a democracy and they had free elections, where prior to Zelensky, basically the government was Russia. Russia appointed who was president and everything. But they had the elections were basically just a name only. And then Zelensky came along and changed that. And Putin wants to be authoritarian. They feel Ukraine is part of Russia because it was until the end of the Soviet Union. Then it became an independent country on paper mostly, but Putin really believes it needs to be in Russia. And you have to remember, Putin is KGB, which is the worst secret service, special forces, and everything, spy network that you could think of in Russia. Will we send boots on the ground? That's another good question, Eric. I actually can't. I can't answer that. I know they're trying to avoid putting boots on the ground. If we put boots on the ground, I think we're going to be forced to put boots on the ground because if you look at the map, and I meant to bring that up. Let me look at that map. This is why Fareed Zakaria is very good because he really is good in explaining what's going on globally, geopolitically. Um, so this map here, let's see if I can. So um, you guys see that? All right. Um, so the map on the right is to my right. I don't know if it's to your left. I hope it's mirrored is to your right. So Russia really is not doing well in this war. But what Russia has, it does still have, they just have sheer numbers in troops, right? So they're not doing well in the north northwest. So now they're shifting more troops to the eastern part, which is the bottom part of this map where the red is. And if they take that southern eastern part, that means they control the Black Sea, the Sea of Oz, and Azov, excuse me, Sea of Azov. And now you're talking global economics because now ships can't go through the other countries, et cetera, et cetera. Um, and that's the shift that they're making now. And that's where they actually have been stronger. But the port of Mariupol is Ukraine. Y'all, they need help. They need to send in more ammunition, equipment, which I understand that they're doing. There's a lot going on that we will never be aware of because it's done secretly. They're doing everything that they can except for sending troops in, the boots on the ground, sending in drones, all of that stuff, which Ukraine, I mean, these folks, for what they're doing and to Russia and holding on, man, we really need to be grateful. But if Russia gets that southeastern portion of Ukraine, uh, then you're getting into the shipping lanes, you're getting into the ports. Nothing can get in, nothing can get out, nothing. You can't. The ships won't be able to go to other countries, and Russia will. Then you're going to go start. Then Russia's going to look at other countries. You see Moldova, Sweden, and I know Sweden is not. Sweden's trying to get into NATO now. Putin doesn't want that to happen. So I understand he's threatened to move nuclear arms towards Sweden, those borders. It's crazy, y'all. It really is crazy. And we don't want him to get control of eastern Ukraine because now you talk about gas, those issues now, and it's going to be messed up. So, boots on the ground, I don't know. We certainly hope that it doesn't get to that point. But that's why I go back to they're gonna have to take Putin out. And I think I think when he decided to go to war, he kind of knew this is either do or die. And the thing is, who his number two is going to take over? Does he has a very small circle of folks around that he trusts? Because that's just how he operates. Because he kills people. He doesn't. He rules the country from fear and from exploitation and raping the country financially. So let's just hope that we don't get to the point where we have to send troops. But I really just don't know. Obviously, I'm not an expert. I just read and pay attention to stuff, and I have my. Do we value the geopolitical system Russia helps to maintain, or do we value Ukrainian democracy? Excellent question. And does the answer help explain our sources to that? I think President Zelensky believes that. I think President Zelensky go to CNN. There's an interview, the headlines. Matter of fact, let me see. Let me pull it up now. Pull it up. They got a quote from Zelensky. I'm going to pull up CNN. Zelensky is quoted as saying, I don't believe the world. I think he realized that I don't believe the world after what's happened in Ukraine. I don't think Zelensky believes that. And I think Zelensky has just started to understand that the world doesn't value Ukrainian democracy as much as they. I don't know if it's geopolitical. That I think it's true, but I think the world economic system, which right now is based on oligarchs. Look at America. Who controls America? Who's running the 10%, 1%, the billionaires? I think ultimately that's they're trying to make. When they first invaded, it did cross my mind, and I did need more information, y'all. So I'm trying to be nuanced in my opinion, but in many ways, this war is oligarchy against oligarchy. It's it's wealthy wealthy Russians, Europeans against other wealthy countries in Western Europe, in the Western world, which would include Europe, United States. Because when you hear Western world, that's what they're talking about. This is a rich person's war. And unfortunately, normal folks in Ukraine are getting slaughtered. They're getting slaughtered because that's the geopolitical shift. That's the empire's change. Russia and China have relationships. China's kind of sitting back watching, but they're really not sitting back watching because CNN today and some other outlets are reporting the Chinese state media is siding with Russia. They're repeating Russia propaganda. But how many of us pay attention to Chinese state media? Think about that. So it's very internal what's going on in China. So how many of us are paying attention to that? That's why we have to, as African Americans, we have to get global knowledge beyond just Africa. We've got to pay attention to what's going on in the world because it impacts all of us. It really does. And China they're kind of sitting back, but they're also not because they're still giving Russian propaganda to their own people. So Chinese people believe in Russia's winning. Russia's in control. Russia's defending Ukraine because Ukraine's attacking their own people with gas and poison and all that stuff, the propaganda. But they're also kind of sitting back and waiting because none of them like the United States because the United States, number one democracy in the world, what it represents freedom. There's still countries, there are countries who want to be democracies. They look at the United States, we want free elections and stuff. And China and Russia ultimately don't want that. They don't want that. And so we're kind of in a World War III. We just don't have troops on the ground yet, but it's about sanctions. It's about the threat of nuclear war. It's about diplomacy right now. It's all very interesting. It's just very interesting. And just my big thing is with Black folks, we got to pay attention. That's exactly, Eric. Yeah. And we yet to see all of it. People talk about gas and the gas price, the inflation of gas prices, that's by corporations. But once again, corporations, oligarchies, billions that's subsidized by the American government. Yeah. It's complicated, but it's simple. It comes down, follow the money, follow the money. So Ukraine is at war, and oil and gas corporations are taking advantage of the fact that Russia and Ukraine are at war. We only get 8%, if that, from Russia for our gas. Prices should not have gone up the way they are. That has actually corrected itself. So gas should actually start coming down. Biden has released reserves, like 1 million gallons from our reserve. Have prices really come down? No. because inflation actually proves the inflation is driven by corporate decisions because they're greedy, and also because they're greedy because we subsidize oil and gas to the tune of billions every quarter, yet they averaged last quarter like $25 billion in profit. So it's just pure greed. It's pure greed. Yeah. So, and Putin is aware of that. Putin is aware that Europe gets most of its oil and gas from Russia. See, that's the issue right there. Is Europe going to be willing to sacrifice their relationship with Russian oil and gas to support Ukrainian democracy? That's a vital question too. That's definitely a vital question. And if they, yep, mm-hmm, yeah, unions are vital. This is why, this is, yep, mhm. And this is why unions are important, folks, because we can't fight these fights by ourselves as individuals. We have to fight them. Unions are about people coming together, working people coming together. You know me, Marilyn, I'm a big supporter of unions. Are they perfect? No. But one thing I have learned that unions, people working together, change things. You know, and that's why people voting, you can change things. African American females vote consistently and have in the last 57 years. And the reason I say that, most people don't realize African American females, black females, did not get the guaranteed right to vote until 1965, 57 years ago. And I know that because that's the year I was born. And we've been consistent voters. That's why we have a black female vice president. That's why we soon will have a black female taking the oath to become a Supreme Court justice. Those consistent votes. And voting somewhat has a block. The majority of voting has a block. And when you vote that way, you can make certain demands. Republicans haven't figured that out either. And black females, when we work and come together, we uplift everybody. And that's geopolitical because we are all ultimately go back to black females in Africa. We have given birth to everyone. Eventually, we're all cousins. You know, eventually we're all family. Here where you are in Europe, Asia, Africa, South America, North America, the Pacific Islands, we are all family. And that's really true. DNA, genetic, and it's black females. So y'all, it is 4:54, almost 5. Didn't intend to talk this long. I enjoyed the conversation. I enjoyed the comments. Um, I'm getting a phone call from a friend of mine. I need to call and talk to him. But thank you for joining me today. Thank you for the conversation. Thank you for your comments. Really appreciate that. Go forth and continue to enjoy your Easter. Happy Resurrection Day. Enjoy the spring. It's new world, y'all. This is hope. This is hope. You know, we've been dormant. We've been, you know, inside not only because of winter, but the pandemic. And now we have hope again. That's why Jesus died on the cross for us. But we need to have hope with knowledge because knowledge gives you wisdom. And we need to make decisions from a place of wisdom. Not perfect, just my opinion, but I appreciate everybody coming in and, you know, dropping in your comments. Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you, Eric. Just want to tell everybody, continue to have a wonderful Easter. Hug, kiss your family and friends. And I'm sending prayers to Philadelphia and Columbia, mass shootings over the weekend. Sending prayers to all who were impacted and affected. And y'all, I'm just praying for the world because we are in change. Change is happening. Turbulent times. But I think when it's all said and done, we're all going to be all right. All right, everybody, it's been good letting you know that this Wednesday we're going to have with us Antoine Maybank. He is a Olympic gold medalist from Georgetown, and we are naming our athletic track fields from him this coming Saturday. But before Saturday, on Wednesday, April 20th, Antoine's going to come on to a gathering place and join us and just talk about what's going on and the excitement that's going to be in Georgetown. There's going to be 2 or 3 days of different events. He's going to meet with our young folks and give them good advice and everything. And he's come on a gathering place on April 20th at 4 o'clock. Join us here again. And we'll hear from Olympic gold medalist Antoine Maybank. And just because Brandon and Jamarr are not with us, let me end this show with a little music and animation. Because this is what happens when you're not here. All right, folks, y'all have a good day. Glad that you were here today. Enjoyed everyone. And y'all have a good Easter and Resurrection Day. Good night, everybody. We'll